Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tangmen based on novel. So let's start. She was a rank 94 title Doluor, known as the Fire Phoenix Doluor. It was a pity that her martial soul wasn't a Fire Phoenix, but a Fire Phoenix sword instead. The Fire Phoenix Doluor was once a very notable name in the Sun Moon Empire. She was as reputable as the Star Sky Doluor, Yi Yulin. When Juzi first took charge of the Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion, this Fire Phoenix Doluor wasn't very convinced. How could she possibly submit to such a young lady? However, Juzi was the Empress, and Shu Qianran even pleaded for her to continue to remain in the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. She would be treated the same, and she was even given greater benefits. Apart from her title, she would continue to command the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion. She was even told that Juzi was the commander in name only. This was why she remained. However, as time passed, Juzi led the Legion to countless successes in this war. She commanded the entire army, and managed to overwhelm both the Star Luo and Heavenly Soul empires. The Fire Phoenix Doluor was slowly convinced by her. She was now fully committed to aiding Juzi in managing this Soul Engineer Legion. Apart from admiration for Juzi, she was also starting to like her now. Juzi also called her Granny normally. For the unmarried Fire Phoenix Doluor, it was her desire to have such a granddaughter. She imparted everything she knew about soul tools to her. This was why she shared a very complicated relationship with Juzi. She was her subordinate, kin and teacher. Seeing that Juzi had been captured, she was very anxious, even though she looked very calm. She didn't suspect Juzi at all. After all, they kept thinking that their target was a title Doluor before they had attacked. Furthermore, they believed that it was likely to be a transcendent Doluor. Otherwise, they wouldn't set such a huge trap. While Juzi had an invincible barrier on her body, it still had a limit. Against a true transcendent Doluor, it couldn't possibly completely resist a serious attack. Stay away. Otherwise, she'll perish with me. Huo Yuhao sounded very forceful. He intentionally changed his voice to sound hoarse and old. It was difficult to tell his age, or even his gender from his voice. Let go of her. The Fire Phoenix Doluor screamed furiously before taking a step forward. A strong beam of fiery red light subtly surfaced behind her. In fact, even in the Sun Moon Empire, someone who could become a strong soul engineer would also naturally have a pretty strong martial soul. The Fire Phoenix Doluor was a good example of that. Huo Yuhao laughed coldly. If you want her to die, make a move. Otherwise, move away. As he spoke, he pressed his hand harder on Juzi's throat. It was as if he was gripping her throat tightly. Juzi played along with him and groaned in pain, as she revealed a painful look on her face. Stop it. The Fire Phoenix Doluor was very anxious. She was almost unable to maintain her calm exterior. Her eyes flashed. She had gone to so much trouble to set up such a trap to capture Huo Yuhao, but it eventually led to her Legion commander being taken as a hostage. This person is simply too strong. Not only can he conceal himself and imitate someone else's appearance, but he also possesses great ice-type abilities. Don't tell me he has twin martial souls. Or does he have a strong soul tool with him? The Fire Phoenix Doluor couldn't tell right now, but she clearly knew that she couldn't let him go. If she wanted to capture him again, it would be extremely difficult. However, if she didn't let him go, Juzi would be in danger. Juzi wasn't only the marshal of 3 armies, she was also the empress. If her safety was endangered, no one could possibly handle the responsibility. Huo Yuhao couldn't care about what the Fire Phoenix Doluor thought. He strangled Juzi as he slowly moved forward. He wasn't very quick, but his spiritual power started to spread quickly. When he only had 2 rings, he was able to scare a bunch of soul beasts by imitating the aura of the Ice Empress. After all these years, his abilities in imitation were unparalleled. He seemed to have assimilated with his surroundings, as he unleashed a terrifying soul beast aura. The pressing aura that belonged to 100,000-year soul beast immediately caused all the 7-ringed soul engineers to turn pale. Some of them almost fired the soul tools in their hands. Huo Yuhao took one step at a time as he walked towards the fire phoenix Doluo. Juzi was completely in his arms. No one would doubt that a titled Doluo had countless ways to kill a person. The fire phoenix Doluo gritted her teeth and roared, "Stand back. Let him leave." A pathway was slowly opened. The fire phoenix Doluo asked, "What will make you let go of our legion commander?" Although everyone from the legion had already made way, their linked defensive barrier hadn't moved yet. The fire phoenix Doluo was very experienced. She instructed everyone to make way to reduce Huo Yuhao's killing intent, so that she would be able to negotiate with him afterward. Huo Yuhao calmly said, "You don't have the right to negotiate with me. After I leave, I'll definitely let go of her." The fire phoenix Doluo didn't budge. "Swear on your martial soul before I'll believe you. Otherwise, I'd rather perish together if you hurt our legion commander after leaving." Huo Yuhao snorted coldly and said, "All right, I swear on my martial soul that I'll let go of this hostage after I leave. Otherwise, my martial soul will be crushed and never be restored. Is this fine?" How would he ever hurt Juzi? The fire phoenix Doluo had suggested that he should swear, and so he went along with her. Seeing that he agreed so readily, the fire phoenix Doluo furrowed her brow. After hesitating for a brief moment, she eventually gestured and instructed her subordinates to remove their linked defense. Huo Yuhao slowly left with Juzi. He still remained very wary at this moment. There were so many soul engineers here. Perhaps the enemy had some kind of special soul tool. He unleashed his spiritual interference domain and caused both his and Juzi's figures to become blurry. This also caused all the soul tools to be unable to lock onto him anymore. Juzi's skin was as smooth as ever. Even though he was only touching her neck now, he could still feel how soft and smooth it was. Juzi didn't make any noise apart from the earlier groan. To those from the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion, she had been completely suppressed and wasn't able to speak at all. Finally, Huo Yuhao broke free from the encirclement. He turned around and faced the Fire Phoenix Doluo, who was following him. He slowly stepped back. Under the effect of his imitation, he slowly melted into the darkness. "You are also very strong. I hope you stay true to your words. Otherwise, your vow will turn into a curse." The Fire Phoenix Doluo said coldly. For a titled Doluo like her, she fully believed in destiny. A vow couldn't be made easily, especially one that was on one's martial soul. This was why a vow was usually the most serious and official form of transaction between many titled Doluo when they negotiated with one another. With Huo Yuhao's vow, she believed that he wouldn't dare to renege on it. Never would she have guessed that Huo Yuhao wasn't a titled Doluo. Huo Yuhao heaved a sigh of relief after melting into the darkness. Although they were stuck in ice and snow, the back of his shirt was completely drenched with sweat. It was simply too dangerous. If the Legion commander of the Fire Phoenix Soul Engineer Legion hadn't been Juzi, he wasn't sure if he could have even made it out alive. He could clearly see that Juzi was ready to unleash her second invincible barrier. Under that circumstance, he could only attack with all his might. He had to either stop her from unleashing her invincible barrier, or crush the invincible barrier and take her as a hostage before his snowy dance of ultimate ice vanished. As for whether he would succeed, Huo Yuhao didn't have any confidence at all. Today's situation wasn't any less dangerous than the time when he was surrounded by two evil soul masters and the evil tyrant Soul Engineer Legion in Sunrise City. Wang Qiu'er was the one who had saved him then. This time, it was Juzi. Fortunately, Juzi's life wouldn't be in danger. He subconsciously let go of Juzi's neck. He only held her waist as he fled far away. Juzi didn't utter a sound at all. She let Huo Yuhao bring her wherever he wanted. Right now, how could she not be emotional? It was only after flying tens of kilometers away, and using his spiritual detection to scan his surroundings to ensure no one was following them that Huo Yuhao landed. He found a place to stop. "I'm sorry, Juzi. Huo Yuhao let go of his arms around Juzi's waist and gently sighed. Juzi turned around suddenly and forcefully embraced him. He was completely in her embrace. Huo Yuhao was in a daze. The surrounding winds were very chilly. He had unleashed his soul power to protect himself and Juzi. He wasn't afraid of the cold, but she was. At this moment, he had already forgotten that Juzi was a soul sage. Juzi stuck close to him. Although they were separated by a layer of armor, Huo Yuhao could still the passion from Juzi. You're still alive. That's great. Did you know? I thought you were dead all along. Juzi muttered. Huo Yuhao chortled and replied, I won't die so easily. Don't worry, I'm doing well. Juzi laughed gently and softly said, Did you know? I've not had such blissful feelings for a long time. You're still alive. Great, I feel very blissful. Huo Yuhao was in a daze. He hadn't expected her to say something like this to him. He didn't know how to respond. Juzi gently lifted her hands and relaxed her grip on his waist. She took a step back and widened the gap between them. How have you been? Juzi lifted her head, and there was a concerned look on her face. Huo Yuhao removed his imitation and revealed his actual appearance. He nodded lightly and said, I'm fine. And you? Juzi gave him a slight smile and said, You've seen it, I have been leading the great army into battle. It's not good for me, but it's not bad either. Huo Yuhao stared at her as she stared back at him, and they went quiet in that instant. Juzi's eyes were very passionate, but Huo Yuhao's were full of lament. A long time had gone by, but he could still remember vividly even now when he brought Juzi deep into the lair of soul beasts and risked their lives. Yuhao, are you really the person who destroyed our aerial surveillance soul tools? Juzi suddenly asked. Huo Yuhao nodded in response. Juzi heaved a sigh and turned around. She gazed in the direction of where her Fire Phoenix Legion and army were camped as she said bitterly, I never thought that those words that I said back then would come true. The thing I really didn't want to happen finally did. We have finally met again on the battlefield after all. Huo Yuhao said, You're just a girl, why do you have to throw yourself into this war? Haven't you married Shu Qianran? He actually allows you to show yourself outside. Juzi said plainly, he is a person who is very sensitive to danger, and he doesn't even trust the people closest to him. I am the exception, because I saved his life when he was in the most difficult of times. Therefore, he has always trusted me. Our marriage was just a ceremonial process, so that he can allow me to do more. You can say that I am his wife, but it's more accurate to say that I am his most trusted subject. Military power has always been most important in his eyes, so he inserted me into the army. You may not believe me, but when he was severely injured all those years ago, not only were his legs crippled, but he's also infertile. I haven't been staying together with him till today. Huo Yuhao was astonished when he heard her words. He was an emperor, but he was infertile. If this secret was known to the public, it would probably shake Shu Qianran's throne to its very core. Juzi chuckled and said, I'm telling you all this, and it seems like your status in my mind has surpassed his. But I believe you won't say this to anyone, right? Huo Yuhao said, Since you trust me, what else can I say? I'm not such a bad person. Juzi turned around and stared at him again. I'm sorry, Yuhao. Even though I am unwilling to meet you under such circumstances, I am very happy to see you alive. Don't fight against me, okay? You will not be my match on the battlefield. Your heart is too soft, and that is especially so for those beside you. Your heart has always been too soft. Huo Yuhao frowned as his eyes gradually grew cold. That was because he could see that Juzi's large eyes were flickering with decisive emotions. Juzi, I can take you away if you're willing. I can take you away from the Sun Moon Empire, and you can start an entirely new life. You have personally been through the cruelty of war, so why do you have to bring war to even more people? Juzi's expression changed, and her voice suddenly became shrill. That's easy for you to say. The Star Luo Empire's army killed my father back then and ruined my family, so why don't you say that to their generals and commanders? They destroyed me and everything I had, and I want revenge. I told you a long time ago that the reason why I'm still alive in this world is for revenge. Anybody who will help me exact my revenge will be doing me a favor. Shu Qianran is my benefactor, and you are not. Huo Yuhao felt the resentment that was rippling from Zhu Zi, and he fell silent. They returned to their quiet interaction from before. The resentment on Zhu Zi's face gradually disappeared after a moment, and a faint smile surfaced. Why are we talking about all that after not seeing each other for so long? I don't want such bliss that's so hard to come by disappear like that. Walk away, Yuhao. We have become two parallel lines that are destined to never converge. You have your path, and I have mine. Unless you kill me now, you can't stop me. Nobody can stop me from moving forward, and one day, I will lead the Sun Moon Empire's great army to flatten the Doluo continent's 3 empires and conquer the world. There will no longer be conflict on the continent when that happens, and I will rule over this country properly, so that there will be eternal peace. Her eyes were full of passion as she spoke. Huo Yuhao felt his heart tremble when he heard her words. Rule this country properly, huh? Zhu Zi smiled and stared at the shock in Huo Yuhao's eyes. For some reason, I can never hide the words that are deep in my heart whenever I'm with you. Perhaps it's because you are the only man I've ever liked in the world. Seems like my choice was right. You have become so powerful now. You're not yet a titled Doluo, and yet even though I don't know how you've done it, I can feel that you are far more threatening than typical titled Doluo to me. Yuhao, if you're willing to help me, when I have conquered the entire continent in the future, I am willing to be the woman behind you. All right. When that happens, I trust that you will have reached the pinnacle of the human world. You're only 20 years old and yet you already possess such power. Furthermore, you're not like me, because I've used a lot of medicines and drugs to raise my strength. My senses are very strong, and I can feel the aura of a very powerful individual of our generation from you. You will definitely become a transcendent Doluo, perhaps even an ultimate Doluo. Stand by my side, will you? If that happens, I will be filled with hope, and even more fighting spirit. I will definitely attain my goal in an even shorter period of time. Huo Yuhao slowly but determinedly shook his head, as he gazed into the burning passion in her eyes. Zhu Zi, you're right. We are two lines that can no longer converge, and you have your resolutions while I have my own motivations. Yes, an empire that can conquer the entire continent will bring peace in the future. But have you considered how many lives have to be given in this war to reach this goal of peace? Zhu Zi said coldly, success is paid with lives, and the future has to be built on rivers of blood. Huo Yuhao grunted coldly and said, Zhu Zi, I didn't expect you to be so cold-blooded. How are you any different from an evil soul master? Even though I don't know what you're going to do in the future, you should know that the Sun Moon Empire is playing with fire by cooperating with the Holy Ghost Church. The Holy Ghost Church has so many evil soul masters, and they are extremely formidable. Their 2 ultimate Doluo are the most powerful human beings in the world. Do you really believe that you can control them? In the future, even if the Sun Moon Empire can conquer the whole continent, will these evil soul masters remain silent? I'm afraid they will have the same goals as you when that happens. Zhu Zi laughed, and her laughter was brimming with confidence. I don't need you to worry about those things. As long as you're willing to be together with me, and help me, I will slowly let you understand my plan. The Holy Ghost Church is very powerful, but even the strongest of men have weaknesses. Furthermore, they are a sect. What I control is an empire's strength. Do you really believe that individual strength can fight against an entire empire? Be the man behind me, Yuhao. Please? Consider me begging you. Zhu Zi suddenly became very weak, as her words stopped there. 2 rows of tears slid down her cheeks, as the transparent teardrops swiftly turned into ice and dropped to the ground before they shattered into pieces. Huo Yuhao stared at her. There was uncertainty in her eyes, and there was fear, but there was more hope. He knew that this was perhaps the last time their destinies would intersect. But could he really do that? Huo Yuhao took a step forward as he shook his head lightly. He brought Zhu Zi into his embrace and said, I'm sorry, Juzi, but I can't. You have your resolutions, and I have mine. Even though I am not willing to admit it, perhaps we can only be enemies. After today, I will risk everything to stop the Sun Moon Empire's invasion. I wish for peace in the continent, and I will work to that end till the day I die. Juzi let him hug her. She raised her arms and wrapped them around his sturdy back. She didn't attempt to convince him anymore, and just allowed her tears to flow like waterfalls, and her teardrops turned into ice on her beautiful face. The two of them were just hugging each other, and Juzi raised her head after a moment as she gently pushed Huo Yuhao away. You are the person I am least willing to have as an enemy, Yuhao. Do you know that? Juzi said agonizingly. Huo Yuhao raised his head into the sky and said, You and me both. Juzi nodded gently and said, All right, since you've made your choice, then we can only be enemies after today. Yuhao, have you ever liked me? Huo Yuhao trembled before he gently nodded. Juzi smiled and walked next to him. She placed her arm around his neck as she pressed her lips close to his ear. I guess I have not liked you for nothing. Thank you, and even if you're lying to me, I'm still very happy. Huo Yuhao heaved a sigh and said, Why would I lie to you? You were the first woman that walked into my heart, but there are just too many hurdles and barriers between us, too many. Juzi, you. Juzi suddenly raised her hand and pressed it against his lips. She didn't let him continue. Since we have our own resolutions, then from today onwards, can we stop attempting to convince each other? We will both work hard on our own paths. Perhaps, several years or even decades later, when one of us has achieved our goal, everything will be different. Don't you think so? Huo Yuhao gently nodded. He knew that any attempt to convince her would be futile. Juzi cupped his face in her hands, as she stared into his eyes from as near as they could be. She stroked his face tenderly as she felt the warmth coming from his cheeks, and her eyes were covered with moisture once more. I can't bear to leave you, do you know that? She said gently. Huo Yuhao's body shook, but he couldn't say anything at all. He did like Juzi before, but his heart now truly belonged only to Donga. Furthermore, even if Don Jia hadn't appeared, he couldn't go against his principles for Juzi. However, his heart was truly aching so much in this moment. I want to kiss you, may I? Consider it a farewell kiss. Juzi said softly. Huo Yuhao was momentarily stunned. Juzi stepped forward against his body without waiting for his response as her ice-cold, but moist lips pressed tightly against his. Her lips were soft and fragrant. Huo Yuhao was a normal man, and especially because of the atmosphere they were in, he really couldn't push her away. Subtle intoxication coursed over his body, and Huo Yuhao suddenly felt as if his entire being was immersed in this feeling. Even his spirit began to feel a little lost in the next moment. Eh? Huo Yuhao grunted softly, and his eyes suddenly widened, because he could clearly feel that something wasn't right. Juzi was still kissing him, and she smiled gently. Her lips parted as she said, Don't try to struggle. This infinite intoxication has no antidote. It's not poisonous, it will only make you sleep for a little while. I love you, Yuhao, really. I love you. You will be the only man that I will ever love in this life. Huo Yuhao's body gradually slid into her arms along with her soft and fine words. The infinite intoxication was too strong. Huo Yuhao's spiritual sea was almost instantly cut off by that strange drug, and he couldn't even communicate with his four formidable spirits. His consciousness slowly left him, and only a bitter smile remained on the corner of his mouth. Juzi is right, my heart is just too soft. Juzi placed him carefully onto the ground as she sat quietly beside him. She raised one of his arms and rested against it as she curled herself up against his chest. Snow and ice was everywhere around them, but the extreme north's low temperature didn't affect the burning passion in her heart at all. She had been waiting for this day for far too long. The feeling of curling up in his arms was wonderful. Waves of warmth emanated from Juzi, and spread over both of their bodies to fight against the severe cold around them. She was just lying there, silent and enchanted, enjoying this rare blissful moment. 15 minutes passed as she lay there motionless, and there was only happiness on her face. She slowly sat up from Huo Yuhao's embrace after 15 minutes, and the warmth, tenderness, and bliss on her face was gradually substituted by iciness. She gradually stood up as she stared at Huo Yuhao beside her. She muttered, "I did say that your heart was too soft, especially towards people you like. But why do I just like that about you? I can feel that you will be an enormous threat to my future plans, and I should kill you at this time. Killing you can resolve the only remaining soft emotions in my heart, and I can eliminate a great threat at the same time." Juzi flipped her wrist as she spoke, and a spike that was yellowish all over appeared in her grip. Murderousness flickered in her eyes, but lasted but a moment before she smiled. "He won't kill me, so how can I kill him? His heart is soft, and mine is cold, but my heart melts only when I am with him. You're so foolish. No matter what, I will not hurt you. Do you know that? As long as you're alive, I will not go insane. That bit of tenderness in my heart is what I treasure the most. Not only will I not hurt you if somebody else hurts you, I will kill that person no matter who he or she is." She tapped the tip of her foot gently against Huo Yuhao's waist as she spoke, and flipped Huo Yuhao onto his side. She squatted down beside him and stared at him seriously. After a few moments, she raised the yellow spike and thrust it ferociously towards Huo Yuhao's waist. Cold wind billowed. The sky was already bright when Huo Yuhao came to from his blackout. Daytime in the extreme north was a lot shorter compared to the inner mainland. The sky was already completely bright at this point, but it still looked very dim. Huo Yuhao swiftly sat up and glanced down at himself subconsciously. He didn't feel anything different. He looked around him, and everything was just snow and ice. Juzi was long gone. However, the soul tools that Huo Yuhao had detected that generated heat were placed in a circle around him. These were the things that had been giving him warmth before. Even though he possessed ultimate ice and wasn't afraid of the cold, he couldn't help but feel a wave of warmth flow through his body when he saw those soul tools that generated heat. "Hi, Juzi." Huo Yuhao stood up and gazed in the direction of the Sun Moon Empire's great army. He shook his head exasperatedly, but his gaze quickly turned to one of determination. "I'm sorry, Juzi. You have your targets, but I have to stop you. I cannot let you achieve your goal. If we meet again on the battlefield, perhaps that is our destiny." "Yuhao, she is right. Your heart is too soft. If she wanted to do something bad to you, you would have died 100 times over." A shadow flickered as the Snow Empress glimmered soundlessly beside him. He snapped around at the Snow Empress and saw her displeased look. Huo Yuhao's four spirits were powerful, but their existence depended on Huo Yuhao, after all. During the previous night, after Huo Yuhao's spiritual sea was blocked off by that sinister infinite intoxication, his four spirits couldn't channel his strength no matter how worried they were. They couldn't even come out, because his spiritual sea was shut off. "I'm sorry, Snow Empress," Huo Yuhao forced a laugh as he spoke. The Snow Empress said plainly, "You don't have to apologize to me. Your soft-heartedness has led you to your current dire situation. That woman is dangerous. If you can, killing her is the best choice." Huo Yuhao laughed bitterly and said, "I can't do it. Juzi has saved my life before. The Snow Empress waved him off and didn't let him continue. "If you can't do it, then don't interact with her so closely anymore. What do you intend to do next?" Huo Yuhao answered, "I will continue investigating what this army is here to do. They have come so far into the extreme north, and it can't be that they are here to deal with me. They must have some other objective. I will discover their objective, and then I will stop them." The Snow Empress thought for a moment, then said, "That's not difficult. This is my home, and it's also the Ice Empress' home." Huo Yuhao's eyes glowed as he heard her words. "What do you mean, Snow Empress?" The Snow Empress said, "You should wait until you find out what they want. Otherwise, we can't do anything against them." "All right," Huo Yuhao acknowledged. Even though he was soft-hearted toward Juzi, he was never unclear about the bigger picture. He wouldn't give up on his own goal, just because Juzi was the commander of the Sun Moon Empire's army. Huo Yuhao ate some dry rations and readjusted himself to make sure that his body was all right, before he traveled in the direction of where the Sun Moon Empire's army was camped. He had confidence. Even if the army was gone, he could still track them using any traces they had left behind with his abilities. However, the Sun Moon Empire's army was still there, and they were still camped where they were the previous night. Furthermore, the Soul engineers and soldiers were starting to get busy. They were still building based on the foundations of the trap they had set for Huo Yuhao the previous day, but he didn't know what they were doing. Huo Yuhao's eyes closed into slits as he watched them hustle around, and he began to think. It seemed like this place was their destination. But what could they be doing in a place like this? He had learned his lesson, and he wouldn't go in to investigate anymore. Furthermore, even if he did, he had to be especially careful. He wasn't interested in causing damage right now, as finding out the Sun Moon Empire's objective was more important. Huo Yuhao observed quietly in the snow and ice, and a day passed just like that. There were a lot of Soul engineers participating in the labor, while their machines worked very quickly. They took but one day to finish the base of their constructions, over 500 square meters. A certain large machine attracted Huo Yuhao's attention. There was a drill-like thing beneath this enormous machine. This drill was more than 5 meters in diameter, and it was constructed by hoisting components into place. This machine was very large, and the metal pillars from before formed the foundations for its construction. Some stabilizing mechanisms were built with those metal pillars as the skeleton. What are they trying to do, exactly? Huo Yuhao was very suspicious. Are they trying to drill into the ground? But what can be beneath the ground? An idea came to Huo Yuhao as he contemplated. Underground. What can be underground? There can only be one answer: resources. Can it be that there are some resources in the extreme north that the Sun Moon Empire needs? Or? Huo Yuhao did not continue observing from where he was, but ran further away, and soared into the sky. He had been following the Sun Moon Empire's army over these days, but he had always been doing everything from the ground. His field of view would be a lot wider if he flew into the sky, and perhaps he could discover something then. The chilly air was sharper, and the temperature even lower. However, those conditions didn't affect Huo Yuhao. He didn't have to use the snowy dance of ultimate ice. He only needed the domain of perpetual ice to form a layer of protection around him, and that was sufficient. Huo Yuhao gazed down as he flew high into the sky, and he quickly discovered some problems. There were some barracks established 25 kilometers from where the Sun Moon Empire's army was camped. That area should be within the Douling Empire's territory. The Heavenly Soul Empire's territory was in the other direction, and there seemed to be some old structures about 10 kilometers out. The Sun Moon Empire was currently camped between those two areas. This video will end here.